Last week, something happened that completely caught me off guard. I experienced what I can honestly say was the most intense release of my life. And what surprised me even more was how it happened. As someone who works in the medical field, I've spent years learning about the body, understanding responses, studying how everything functions on a technical level. But even with all that knowledge, I didn't realize my own body was capable of reaching that level of sensation. There were no toys involved, no oral techniques, nothing complicated or flashy. It was just hands, simple, controlled, intentional touch. And by the time it was over, I was shaking uncontrollably, completely overwhelmed, unable to even speak properly. My voice just disappeared. So today, I'm opening that door and letting you in on what really creates those powerful, full-body reactions. The kind that leaves someone breathless and completely lost in the moment. But before getting into the techniques themselves, it's important to understand what's actually happening beneath the surface. From a biological perspective, the clitoris contains more than 8,000 nerve endings. That's an incredibly dense concentration, even more than what exists in the male anatomy. And here's something that's often overlooked. Most women, around 75%, don't reach climax from penetration alone. Direct stimulation plays a major role. This is where hands become incredibly important. They're precise, adaptable, and responsive in a way nothing else really is. They can adjust instantly, reacting to subtle changes in the body. This isn't just about physical movement, it's about communication. A kind of silent language that happens through touch. I've put together a complete guide with 15 different approaches, but here I'm walking you through the first 7. We're starting from the outer layers and gradually moving inward, because each step prepares the body for what comes next. Skipping ahead or rushing breaks that progression, and that's where most people go wrong. If you stay with the process all the way to the end, you'll understand exactly what made last week's experience so unforgettable. The first step in this sequence is what I'd describe as a gentle side-to-side motion over the clitoral hood. Imagine a soft, sweeping movement like something gliding back and forth. The focus here isn't direct contact with the most sensitive area yet. Instead, it's about awakening the nerves underneath, building anticipation without overwhelming the system. Next comes a much lighter, quicker motion. Using just the fingertips, there's a soft, fluttering touch along the inner folds. It's delicate, almost like a vibration created by rapid but gentle movement. This creates a kind of hum in the body, a deep, building sensation that spreads rather than spikes. Then we move into a stage that requires patience, and this is where most people lose control and rush ahead. Instead of going straight to the obvious areas, the attention shifts outward. The inner thighs, the hips, the subtle lines where the body curves inward. These areas are incredibly responsive when touched lightly. Using minimal pressure, almost like tracing the skin, increases blood flow and heightens sensitivity across the entire region. When time is taken here, everything becomes more receptive later. If you skip this and go straight to the center, the body isn't ready. But if you spend time building that anticipation, the response becomes much stronger. Before moving further, it's important to address a few common mistakes that completely disrupt the experience. These are things I see over and over again, and they're often the reason people disconnect or even fake their reactions just to move on. The first issue is something very basic but often ignored: hand care. This isn't just about cleanliness. Rough edges, uneven nails, or anything sharp can cause tiny injuries that instantly shift the experience from pleasure to discomfort. Everything should be smooth, carefully maintained, and intentional. The second mistake is focusing too much on repetitive in and out motion. That approach mimics penetration, but it doesn't engage the body in the way many people assume. The front internal area is sensitive in a different way. It responds to rhythm and pressure, not force. Instead of pushing in and out, a subtle, controlled motion creates a much more meaningful response. It's less about movement and more about connection. The third issue is applying too much intensity too quickly, especially on the most sensitive external areas. That kind of pressure can easily become overwhelming or even uncomfortable. Sensitivity here is extremely high, and it requires a careful, gradual approach rather than force. Now, moving forward, the next step involves a simple but effective technique. Instead of rubbing, it's about applying gentle pressure and releasing it in a steady rhythm, almost like a slow pulse. This creates a consistent pattern that the body can follow and respond to naturally. After that, attention shifts slightly inward. There's a specific area that feels different in texture, slightly more responsive. The motion here is small and controlled, a subtle curling movement rather than anything forceful. When done correctly, it creates a very distinct reaction. And once that response is found, the key is consistency. Changing the rhythm or speed at that point often breaks the connection. Then comes the combination of internal and external stimulation. This is where everything begins to align. One hand maintains a steady rhythm externally, while another continues that subtle internal motion. When both signals work together, the intensity builds in a way that feels synchronized, leading to those strong, full-body reactions that people often think are exaggerated. They're not. When everything is aligned properly, the response is very real. Finally, the last step is about bringing everything together as one continuous flow. It's not about rushing toward an end point. It's about maintaining the build, staying present in the moment, and allowing the intensity to rise naturally. That's what creates the kind of experience that lingers long after it's over. What I've shared here is only part of the full picture, but even these steps alone can completely change how things feel. The most important thing to remember is that every person is different. These methods are just a starting place. The real difference comes when attention shifts away from following a fixed pattern and instead focuses on reading and responding to the person in front of you. That's where everything changes.